Adobe Illustrator. We'll start with an overview of 3D effects, and then we'll look at creating a 3D globe like this. Next we'll look at creating a 3D bottle, like you see here, plus some tips and tricks. My name is Bill Carberry, and I'm an Adobe Certified Instructor for Acrobat, Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. I'm here to help you master Adobe Illustrator and the Creative Cloud applications. There are three types of 3D effects that you can create in Adobe Illustrator. The first is 3D extrude and bevel, the second is 3D revolve, and the third is 3D rotate. We'll start with extrude and bevel, but first, if you don't already have Adobe Illustrator, you can click the ad on the Tutpad website here and get started with the free trial. To create a new document, you simply choose File, New. And if you're using Illustrator on the Mac versus Windows, it might look a little bit different, especially with older versions. But with this version here for CC 2018, you get presets for different mobile devices as well as web and print. And you can simply start with a letter size perhaps, and you might use a landscape orientation with just one artboard. It doesn't really much matter about the artboard size because we're going to create what's known as vector graphics that'll scale to any size and still look great. So to create a simple circle like you see here, if you press and hold down on the rectangle tool and then let go on the ellipse tool, you can draw a circle from the center. If you press and hold down the Alt key on Windows, that would be the Option key on the Mac, and as you drag out a ellipse, if you hold down the Shift key, it'll constrain to a circle. Just be sure to let go of the mouse first, timing's everything, and then you can let go of those modifier keys. Now to do the actual extrude and bevel, you would go to the Effect menu, choose where it says 3D, and then choose Extrude and Bevel. In this dialog box, the first thing you want to do is vote for the Preview button down here, and then you can try it before you buy it. Now up here at the top, you'll see there's different position pop-ups. You can choose between different front, back, left and right views and so forth. You might want an isometric view, for example. And you can also just grab this cube and just kind of spin it around to get the orientation that you want. And furthermore, you can go into any of these fields, and I like to use the scroll wheel on the mouse to just kind of spin it around, see how it does that. Or you can use the up and down cursor keys on your keyboard to kind of get the orientation that you want there. So just kind of tilt it a little bit like that. And then here's the extrude depth. You just click in the field. Again, you can use the scroll wheel on your mouse to just extrude it to a different depth. And I might use like 72 points, which is equal to an inch, for example. And then if you pop up the bevel type here, you can see there's like a classic bevel like that. And you can play with the height of that as well. You can see it kind of makes like a flange there. And then notice there's little buttons here that you explore the extend out and kind of see what that looks like. The surface shading, I typically use plastic. You might also use diffuse. It's a little bit of a different shadow effect. You can also use wireframe, so you can kind of see that sort of effect. I'll go ahead and just leave it to diffuse, and we'll take a look at these other options here in just a moment. But for now, I'll just go ahead and click OK. And let's look at the 3D revolve feature here. Now this is just a simple shape that you might use the pen tool to create. You'll find tutorials here for how to use the pen tool, or perhaps the shaper tool. You can make different shapes. The pencil tool is really simple to use too. You can double click any tool and set the options, and you might use like 3/4 smoothness and it might make a smoother shape for you. And you just kind of rough out whatever shape you want here. I'm just going to kind of eyeball that one there. And then once you select the shape, I'll go ahead and use this one here. If you go to the Effect menu and choose 3D, and then in this case we're going to use Revolve, and then turn on Preview and just move this over here, and you can kind of see like a bottle appears there. Again, you can just grab the little cube here and just kind of spin that around, explore the different options here for the angle and so forth. I'll go ahead and click OK to that. And then the last one here is for a polygon, you can simply choose hidden behind the group of rectangle tools. Here is the polygon tool, and if you just click with these tools, you'll be politely prompted to fill in the blanks. In this case, we'll just make a 6-sided polygon and a radius of 50 points. When you click OK, you can see it comes true there. And then once again, you just visit the Effect menu, choose where it says 3D. In this case, you choose Rotate, and this is a very simple one here. You just click on Preview, and again, you can just grab the cube, and you see it kind of rotates the polygon for you. So there you have it. That's the basics there. Now let's explore creating a 3D globe in Adobe Illustrator. Notice this document has multiple artboards. You can create more than one artboard using the Artboard tool, and you can simply drag out an artboard to any dimensions you want. And up here in the Artboard control panel, you can choose from different sizes and orientations, as well as name your artboard. This is important that your artboard moves with the artwork, and then this button right here is for artboard options. And I like to turn on show center mark. That way you're able to see a little target like you see here in the middle that you can aim for. So in this case, we need to create an ellipse, and we're just going to create a circle from the center here as I hold down the Alt key on Windows or Shift on Windows to constrain to a circle. When you let go of the mouse first, you'll have a circle, but it needs to be a semicircle. So the easiest way to do that is to use the direct selection tool. First, click to deselect, hover over the path, and when you tap on the path, you should see an anchor point over here on the right. When you click that to select it, simply press the delete key on your keyboard, and then you'll have a semicircle. Now, to make this into a globe, you can go to the Effect menu, choose where it says 3D, and then choose Revolve. Now, when you turn on Preview, you'll see it looks kind of weird because you have to set it from left edge to right edge. When you do that, you'll get a globe like you see here. Now, you could explore, the various options. You might rotate the globe around and so forth. And in this case, we really want to change the plastic shading to diffuse shading so it looks a little smoother. Plus, if you click on where it says More Options, you can explore the light intensity. See how it darkens it up as I pull that down there? And then also the ambient light, how much light is flooding, how light or dark is it? Is it sunrise or sunset or perhaps noon? So that's how you do that. And then the blend steps, that will smooth it out. 25, you can kind of see some banding there. Notice as I raise that up to around 100 or so, it kind of smooths it out. Just know it may take a longer time to render when you export to perhaps a PNG file. The shading color is going to be black by default, but if you pop it up and choose custom, you could perhaps make it a red planet like Mars, or click this little square here, and you might choose like more of an ocean blue perhaps, so you get more of a ocean color. You just want to make sure you get plenty of cyan in there. If you're doing print production, you might use 100% cyan and 0 magenta, yellow, and black, for example. Just say OK to that, and you can see it's just like a basic blue color there. And now I'll go ahead and switch that back to black because I kind of like the way that's shaded like that. And if you're using spot colors on a printing press, you may want to preserve those spot colors. In this case, we don't need to draw any hidden faces, so we'll leave that as is. But the most tricky part is to do map art. And to do that, first you'll need to define a symbol. Now, I've already done this for brevity's sake. I just want to show you here when I choose the map symbol, and I'll show you how to get that there in a moment. You can see it kind of puts it on the surface of the planet there, and then you just kind of have to drag this into the lighter area there. It may take a moment for it to render that, but you can see it's positioning the different continents right about there is where I want it. It's a little bit sluggish as you drag it around. You'll have to wait for it to update. You may see like a little beach ball, but I'm happy with it right there. I don't need to scale it to fit. That would clear if you want to start again. If you have more than one surface, you might have to explore the different surfaces to see where you want to put your artwork. I'll go ahead and turn on Shade Artwork, although it's a little bit slower. It just kind of renders it a little bit more realistic, perhaps. And then there's no invisible geometry that we have to work with here, so I'll just go ahead and click OK. And there's the basic globe. I'll go ahead and click OK to this. This is important right here when it comes to getting a map of the world. You can simply search on the Freepik website. I'll just go ahead and switch to Safari here. And you just want to make sure to credit the author for whatever map you find. You can just simply search for like world map or whatever. This is the example I used there. And then back here in Illustrator, when you open up the EPS file that you download from freepik.com, you can simply copy and paste it onto your artboard, for example, from one document to another if you want. But the main thing, in order to get it to appear in the menu when you're doing the revolve, is to make it into a symbol. And for that, you'll need to go to the window menu if you don't see your symbols panel, which is listed alphabetically right here under symbols. And you have to select it with the selection tool, and you'll notice it's one grouped object here. And when you drag it and drop it into the symbols panel, you can give it a name, such as, map of world perhaps. And instead of movie clip, we're just going to make it a graphic. And then dynamic symbols will update automatically as opposed to static symbols. And then just leave the registration at the center, should be fine. We don't need 9 size scaling, but when you say OK, that's how you'll have a symbol that appears in the appearance panel. For example, I might select this little semicircle here and go down here in the appearance panel. This is how you revisit the Revolve 3D effect. You have to click to edit it. Don't go back to the menu, otherwise it will create multiple instances of it. But that's where you can see when you go to map art here, that's where you'll see any symbols that are in your symbols panel are listed here. So that's the trick to getting a 3D globe to work. Now let's look at a more advanced example of creating a 3D bottle in Adobe Illustrator. Notice that there are two artboards in this document. On the first artboard for the front of the bottle, there's simply an ellipse here. And on the second artboard, there's an ellipse that has the artwork mapped to the back of the bottle. So if we go to the View menu and choose Outline, here's the ellipsis that has been extruded and beveled. If I go down here to the Appearance panel, you can see there's an extrude and bevel effect here. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the view back to GPU stands for Graphic Processing Unit, is your video card, versus the CPU is the chip in your computer. Now, no matter which one you choose, you may have, performance differences, but no matter how much money you spend on a video card, it probably won't render any better or faster because it kind of uses 1990s technology here. But basically, let's just explore what's going on here. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the effect and turn on preview, which it may take a moment to render it. And you'll notice that, I found by rotating the cube to get to the front of the bottle, it gets that view there. And I had to play with like the extrude depth here. You can notice it's, quite a bit of extrusion going on there. That kind of determined the height of the bottle. And I just used the cap option here for solid appearance, but the bevel is set to rolling. That's why it kind of has that contoured shape. But you'll notice there are other more complex contours that you can play around with the beveling there. And just by trial and error, I just discovered that the 14-point height worked well, and I left the bevel extend set to out. And since it's a plastic light shampoo bottle, I used plastic shading, and then the light can be dragged around. This little dot that you see here, you can kind of just drag around to get the right lighting effect you want. You can also move it to the back of the bottle. You see it kind of gets dark if I do that. It's like the dark side of the moon. And then if you click on new light, it'll conjure up a new light. So you might have like, light coming from multiple places. If you don't want that, you can just click the little trash can on the selected light. And again, as I explained earlier, you can play with the intensity and the ambient light. So I kind of found these settings worked well here. And then this is the kind of the tricky part with map art. If I click on map art, you can see this particular surface, and there's 7 of them, doesn't have any art mapped to it because that's the top of the bottle. But each time you click, you'll see like that's the bottom of the bottle. And notice the red wireframe appears there, kind of gives you a clue on which surface you're talking to. There are interior surfaces as well, but here you can see on surface 6 of 7 is where I inserted the symbol that I called front. Remember, you have to drag and drop your artwork into the symbols panel before it appears there, but that's how I mapped that bottle to the front there and just kind of positioned it in the center there. And then for the back of it, I simply cloned this shape onto the second artboard. I'll go ahead and select this ellipse here, go into 3D extrude and bevel as well, turn on preview, and I'll just move this to the other side so you can see. And of course I just simply map the other symbol for the back. And if I go to map art here, you can see again, you have to just kind of you can actually use like go to the N button there and see which surface it's on. In this case, it's surface 6 again. So again, that's just a matter of picking the right symbol there and then just playing with the various options that you see there. Here's some tips and tricks for working with 3D objects in Adobe Illustrator. If you wanted to edit the text on this shampoo bottle, you wouldn't just like click on this text with the text tool. You'll need to go to the symbols panel and drag out an instance of the symbol. In this case, I'll drag the front symbol over here onto the pasteboard. And I'll just zoom in on this a bit so you can see a little bit better. Basically, if you want to edit the symbol, you would go to the control panel up here and click on the Edit Symbol button, and then when you say OK to this, you'll edit all instances of that symbol. So you might have this on multiple bottles, for example. Now I'm going to use the direct selection tool to select some of this text down here. Now I've converted this text to outlines using the type convert to outlines command, but this could be static text. I just did that so you wouldn't have any font problems. I'm going to go ahead and just switch it to Pantone 485 is a Pantone color. And by the way, there's no such thing as Pantone. That's a play on the word Pantone. So you can see as I double click to exit, it updates both the symbol on the pasteboard as well as the one on the bottle. Now when it comes to exporting the final product, you would go to the File menu and choose Export. And export for screens is really handy. You can also use export as. And you can choose whatever artboards you want to export. In this case, I'll do both the front and the back. And you can choose where you want to export it to, as well as opening the folder. And down here you can pick different scaling percentages for different devices such as phones, tablets, and desktop devices, for example. And then you can add a suffix as well as pick the file type. Now PNG as in portable network graphics is almost the best version that you can get from Illustrator because it supports transparency and it does a good job of preserving the quality of the vector objects. SVG as in scalable vector graphics is pretty good as well, but your quality is going to suffer. But definitely don't use JPEG because that would rasterize it, make it into dots, and you would lose any transparent background. So I've already exported this for brevity's sake. I'm just going to go ahead and switch to Adobe Bridge so you can see all these little renderings. And if you select and press the space bar, you can see there's the final product. That checkerboard square pattern indicates transparency, meaning you can put this inside of any type of document, such as an InDesign file or in Photoshop, and you'll be able to see what is behind it. Perhaps the ultimate product when it comes to designing 3D packaging and labels is from a company called Esco. They make a product called Esco Studio that runs inside of Adobe Illustrator as a plugin, as well as some standalone packaging pieces. So you can see it like does 3D realistic renderings with die guides and so forth. It's a very sophisticated and somewhat pricey product, but it's really an amazing thing when it comes to designing a product and doing a rendering for a client that you can show them before you even print the document or anything. You can actually do 3D realistic renderings from scratch. So, and this is all built into the product. It actually shows the boxes on the shelf just by clicking a few buttons. This product's been around for a long time, and what I really love about it is you can actually give a client a Adobe Acrobat PDF file, and they can actually just like drag around and spin this around and zoom in on it, and you can see how clear and crisp the text looks. And you can learn more about the Esco suite of products on their website, of course. It's truly an amazing product that allows you to be very precise with rendering 3D objects that are actually used in the production itself, so people can actually work with their iPads and play with the 3D objects there as well. Another one of my favorite products is from a company called Hotdoor. They make CAD tools as a plugin for Illustrator as well. It has a dynamic dimensioning tool, somewhat similar to SketchUp and AutoCAD. So if you're familiar with AutoCAD tools, you might find this product interesting as well. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. On behalf of tutpad.com, this is Bill Carberry, Adobe Certified Instructor, saying learn something new every day right here at tutpad.com, and feel free to contact me if I can be of any assistance.